Hello and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Dr. Westman. Today we're going to be chatting about the difference between a therapeutic keto diet versus a low-carb diet. How are you, Eric?
Doing very well. How are you, Glenn?
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, good to have you on again, and hopefully we can bring some value to whoever gets to watch these episodes. So first off, let's just chat about what is actually the difference between a therapeutic keto diet and a low-carb diet.
Yeah, there are many differences, and I think in the big picture, if someone's just becoming aware of this and worried about what to do, the therapeutic ketone sort of programs are very difficult to do. So you want to be sure that you want to do a deep dive into that, or maybe you don't need that level of difficulty. So that therapeutic ketones let me talk about in just a moment. The low carb approach is something I've been working with for 20 years in the research and clinical setting. It's been around 150 years in Western medicine. The low carb approach is not as strict. There are a lot of different ways to do it. It's a simple lifestyle change, really, once you understand what to do. So in the big view, the therapeutic keto is going to be a little complicated. It might even, when you read about it, it might be, oh my gosh, do I have to do all these different things? Is this what keto is? And no, so keto can also mean very low carbohydrate, which is not as difficult. You're not measuring all these different things. And so there's kind of a big branch point is therapeutic keto. Let's talk about that. And then there's low carb, which is not as difficult at all. As if you're just entering this, just be aware that there's a range of difficulty and use of different things. And my comfort zone is using low carb because I've been doing that for so long and so many different people in a clinical setting and just for healthy eating. So I know more about the low carb than therapeutic keto, for example.
So if someone was, let's say, for example, someone had type 2 diabetes, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, hypertension, and other metabolic related illnesses or conditions, how would they know which version is right for them?
Yeah, well, so I use low carb diets for that all the time. It's just I keep the carbs so low that you're going to be turning into a fat burning machine and using ketones without measuring those sorts of things. So severe metabolic diseases can be helped and fixed if you do it long enough and stay with it by using low carb at a very low carbohydrate level. So when I think of a therapeutic keto diet where you have to measure your blood ketones, urine isn't good enough, and you have to be sure about your macros and all the amount of fat you're eating every day. You don't have to do that level of difficulty if you're type 2, if you're affected by type 2 diabetes or obesity. No, you don't be daunted by the therapeutic keto sort of approach.
And so let's say one was following a low carb or keto type of diet. Does this mean that 75% of your calories needs to come from fat, or is there some sort of flexibility?
Well, right. So there's a lot of flexibility with the low carb approach. In fact, I don't ask people to check their macros or put their food into apps and all that. That's something that's come about in the latest, say, 5 years or so, borrowing from the ketogenic diet for epilepsy world, where these children have to be very careful about the keto levels and to stay away from sugar and starch. It's something new because of the science around cancer treatments and therapeutic use potentially of ketones to treat diseases and to prevent inflammation. So the idea of keeping your fat percent the same every day and watching your protein exactly every day is something very new. There's not a whole lot of science about it. So my approach is to be much more flexible and let people even eat different things on different days and different amounts. I don't think we really understand the level to which you have to measure all of the different ketone levels and macros. And I mean, there are a lot of apps and computer-assisted ways that it will tell you you have to, but I don't think the science is that clear there yet.
Okay, and let's say one has been on your page 4, for example, which is 20 grams of total carbs and under, to treat any of all those conditions that I spoke of. And they've actually reached their goals. And so let's say, for example, they had 20 pounds to lose, they had type 2 diabetes and hypertension, and they've successfully come off their medication, they've lost the 20 pounds, they're feeling great, they've been on this kind of lifestyle for a year or so, or maybe shorter or longer. Is there some, once they've reached their progress, is there some sort of flexibility to move onto more of a low carb diet where they don't have to stick to under 20 grams of total carbs?
Yes, definitely. So when I am explaining to someone who's just starting, remember I'm in a clinical program for the most part still at Duke University. People come in, if they have no real understanding or they're worried about, will I never be able to have fruit again in my life? And no, I don't want you to have fruit at first. I explain that, well, what I want to do is get you to a place, the point A to point B. Once you get to point B, where your weight is gone, the diabetes is gone, the hypertension is gone, yes, you can fix all those things. You're at a lower weight, you can go back to eating more carbohydrates. But I reassure people along the way, if you don't want to, it's fine. I mean, after you go several years, I've gone 20 years without eating many carbohydrates. They don't have the same, calling and allure. So yes, you can go back to eating some more carbohydrates, but if you go back to eating what got you in trouble in the first place, it's just a matter of time before you develop the diabetes and hypertension and obesity again. And that's called yo-yo dieting, which we don't want to have happen. So don't be concerned that you're never going to be able to eat carbs again. Some people, so I can't entirely predict who will be able to eat more carbs and not develop the diabetes, metabolic syndrome, obesity. So it's really trial and error at this point. I will measure those things. We will reintroduce carbohydrates and keep measuring the weight and hunger is a good measure of that. I wish I could predict. I wish I had a crystal ball of who would do better with more carbs. I mean, there's a general kind of feeling I have that if you have a couple 100 pounds to lose and all these other medical problems, you're probably going to have to keep the carbs low for a long time. If you're just come in for 20, 50 pounds of weight loss, or you're trying to fix some other sort of metabolic problem, you're otherwise active and young, yes, you can have more carbs, maybe even more carbs now as you fix the metabolic problem by changing the food. So there is a lot of flexibility. That's the low carb approach. Therapeutic keto would be, no, you have to do this every day. You have to measure the ketone level, make sure it's within a certain range. And that the excitement about therapeutic keto is that it might actually fix things or help fix things like cancer, Alzheimer's, things we don't have great treatments for. So I'm watching the science on therapeutic keto with great optimism and hope, but it's not nearly as solid as using the low carb, which has more flexibility. I'm still not convinced that we all should be going around in ketosis, although I know a lot of doctors and researchers and people who are kind of on the zealot keto area that believe that already. I don't think we know that for sure. Getting the carbs, getting sugar out, probably the most important thing, get sugar out of the drinks and the foods. So I'm not convinced yet that we all should be walking around worrying about being at a therapeutic keto level, which means you can incorporate carbs back in, especially if you're young, active, you haven't had a huge, long weight loss or diabetes journey.
So I know that we're going to be, one of the topics we're going to be covering into the future is specifically on this point in terms of if you've reached your goals, how do you know how to progress to the next level? And I know that we're going to be covering that extensively in future episodes. In fact, it's going to be quite a focus for us, because I think it's pretty important for folks to understand that if they were going to add carbs back into their diet, how would they do it? How would they test? I mean, I'm sure that they're not going to advocate, or you wouldn't advocate, if you're sticking to under 20 grams of total carbs and all the metabolic issues, their weight is right down to their goal weight. I'm sure you wouldn't advocate, them jumping up 20 or 30 grams of total carbs in one go. So there's going to be a methodology in terms of how one would do it, which we definitely going to cover in great more detail in future episodes. But
Yeah,
sorry.
right. But in what you said, if this is someone new to this field, 20 grams of carbs might be just one apple a day. So the big picture view is you want to change things slowly, and what might seem like a small amount of carbs to someone is probably a lot. So it depends on the individual. Yeah, definitely.
And if someone has achieved their goals, let's say for example they focused on this type of way of life, this lifestyle, in terms of reaching their weight loss goals, and they reach their weight loss goals, can they replace some of their fat calories with protein in their diet?
Well, probably. I mean, so the interesting thing about the flexibility is I have people who measure all of these things. They bring them in reams of information. All the apps and the downloads and people try to make sense out of a human body that has variability, and then it's not like a machine, like an engineer would deal with a machine. There are adaptations that occur, and I think there can be variability in the fat and the protein, and the trouble comes in when the mind, the taste, the I just want to eat all of this, when you over consume based on other factors than your basic hunger. If you're a foodie and food just tastes great and you can't stop doing that, that's where the behavioral side of what I do comes in. The understanding of metabolism, becoming a fat burning machine, takes you a long ways, but not for everyone does it totally fix it, which means I still have the job, and there's still a need for coaching and helping people figure out the individuality of their circumstance.
So one of the things that obviously we spend a lot of time together at all of our ADAPT events, and so I've had the luxury of listening to you speaking and presenting many, many times, as well as the many discussions we've had. And I know that you are an advocate of using your own body fat stores rather than ingesting the additional nutritional fat. Do you want to just give us a little brief, your thoughts on tapping into your own body fat versus eating calories that specifically come from fat, or trying to hit a macro goal or target specifically by eating fat?
Right. Well, so again, it will depend on the context or what someone's trying to achieve. Most people who come to me in a clinical setting are trying to get rid of the body fat off their body, the extra fat. They're obese. They come to me for weight loss, or they come to me for diabetes and they have extra weight as well. So to become a fat burning machine, the simple answer is just not eat anything, right? Your body will start using its own body fat. That's not the healthiest way to do it, though. Adding some protein back with the idea that you're not eating the carbs, well, actually, you'll be a fat burning machine as well. And so this new idea of bringing ketones and having fat and all, it was Dave Asprey with Bulletproof Coffee saw people in the remote area of the world eating and drinking butter, and it gave him a lot of energy. He got the idea of using Bulletproof Coffee as a way to get oils and ketones and energy. But when you're trying to get the fat energy off your body, anytime you drink oils and butters and energy that way, you stop the burning off your body fat. So that's kind of the it does trip up some people if they come into the keto world today without understanding that low carb is more important. They might be drinking ketone drinks and things, thinking that's the answer. Every week, people come in asking me about the keto pills and products, and I say, no, I just want you to eat real foods, get it really basic. But some people can have the bulletproof coffee and having a little keto feeling of alertness, taking away brain fog. But I don't really want people to use those in a big way when they're trying to lose weight or fix their diabetes.
Understood. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions. You may have already answered some of these questions, but let me just have a look here. So Amanda asks, how do I know I'm actually compliant with my keto or low carb diet? Do I need to test blood sugar, ketones, insulin, etc.?
Well, you know you're compliant because you're staying to the list of foods in the simple system we have, that you're following a certain set of foods that don't raise the blood sugar, don't raise the insulin. But you could do any number of keto, even keto vegetarian, keto vegan. The way you know that you're a fat burner, which to me is what keto really means, is that your hunger will go down or go away totally, and you'll start burning your body fat. So in a clinical setting, I don't really need a scale. If someone tells me they don't have any hunger, their clothes are getting looser, hunger's gone, they're losing weight, or even if I don't have the scale, the clothes are getting bigger, looser, then I know in the big picture that they're burning fat. And I do ask people what they're eating, because it is important to get proper nutrition. That's where the adequate protein comes in. And as a dietitian, doctor, I blend those together, my training and in what I do. I need to make sure that people are getting adequate nutrition. So that's part of it too. So I guess if you're not sure of where to begin, there are lots of programs that that are reputable, that can get you started, and the application can be different foods. Knowing that your keto means that your hunger goes down or is gone, you're losing weight or inches.
Fantastic. Another question. Martin asks, are there different levels to therapeutic keto, i.e., following some of the groups using therapeutic keto for cancer? They speak about a 1-to-1 ratio in that their blood sugar and blood ketones need to be the same. Is this true for other metabolic conditions or other types of treating other types of therapeutic conditions using a keto diet?
Right. So now that you can check blood glucose and you can check blood ketones, you can take the ratio of the two. And there are some groups that from animal studies, meaning not human studies, there is an idea that keeping the ratio at a certain area has special therapeutic benefit. And I'm a human researcher, clinical researcher. I don't discount animal studies, but I know the metabolism of a human is different than the metabolism of a mouse or a rat. So I don't know that these ratios really apply the same way in people yet. So what's happened is there's this happened for, it's always happened, where an animal study will come out in mice and you'll hear it in the news, and then people just assume that a human should do it. Well, that there's a process of applying those same principles from animals then to humans, and that usually is a period of years and many different research groups, and making sure that there's safety and that it works and all that. So I am very cautious to say for sure that that's going to be the same level, the same ratio. And I know a lot of people are advocating that, and it gives people something to do. But we really don't know for sure in humans yet if those levels are really important to check and to do. So I don't know. I know if someone's coming to me for treatment of cancer, or Alzheimer's or pre-Alzheimer's or minimal cognitive dysfunction, I'll explain that I want you to do everything that your doctors tell you to do, and think of the keto diet or as an adjunct, as something to add on to those treatments, because we just don't have the human research yet to say that the keto diet alone is enough. And there are plenty of resources. Miriam Kalamian is a good friend who has a Keto for Cancer book, if you want the deep dive into how to do it. But you have to be eyes wide open that we don't have clinical trials to say that this really will be helpful. Is it possible it could be harmful? Yeah, I suppose. But in my view of things, I'll help someone do a keto diet for cancer or Alzheimer's, but only under the condition that they still follow their doctor's recommendations.
Fantastic. Well, that about wraps it up for today, Dr. Westman. So I really appreciate your time as usual. And to all of you out there, if you found this video helpful or useful, please follow us on our YouTube channel or our Facebook channel under Adapt Your Life. And if you want to see future videos on our YouTube channel, please click the notification bell. And again, if you found this helpful or useful, if you would share and like this video, that would really mean the world to us. And on behalf of myself and Dr. Westman, and until next week, this is Glenn Finkel and Eric Westman signing off for Conversations with Dr. Westman. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.